to episode number 3 of the Victorian dark inspired autumn journal that we're doing here. I have some stuff that I've been working on that I want to share with you in this episode. We're going to start working on the signatures that are going to go into the journal. Quickly, I wanted to show you guys, we did a little addition to our owl here. Here he is. Now, we've come up with a name for him. His name is going to be Artemis, or AKA Artie the Owl, right here. Artie the Owl, keeper of the key. And so we added this cute little key chain on his neck with like a little collar that was made out of an old earring, and just put a little brooch on him, and then a chain with the key that's going to open the lock to the journal. So he's going to sit right over here. I actually made him a cute little nest. So he's going to kind of sit in his little nest over here and watch over us work away. All right, so make sure if you haven't yet subscribed, you hit that subscribe button down below. Give this video a big thumbs up. Make sure your notifications are turned on so you can follow along and be notified whenever I post a new video. So in the last video, we worked on the cover of our journal right here, and we have it all ready to go. I have my inside lining papers all ready to go, and I've kind of just set this aside to work on the signature portion of the journal, because we can't do any more with this until we finish the signatures. Also, real quick, I did pick up a cute little possible addition to the front of the cover, which I don't know yet if we're going to use this or not, but I got this at Dollar Tree. Super cute little wooden owl. He's the perfect size if we painted him up cute to go on the front of the journal here. I don't know if he's too big or not. I thought that might be kind of cute. So we'll set this aside and we'll wait a little while before we decide on that. But let's talk more about the next steps to making this journal. If it's your first time making a journal or any type of bound book like this one right here, we're going to be talking about signatures. And if you don't know what a signature is, basically a signature is just a grouping of pages that go inside your book. Now, pages are bound in different ways. Some are bound in signatures, some are bound individually, like individual pages that are glued together. Now, when we're working with this type of journal, it's much easier to work with like a bound signature that is tied together or sewn together with some type of string or twine or whatever you want to use. So that's what we're going to be doing in this specific journal. We're going to be making 3 different signatures with multiple pages in each signature, and then those signatures are going to be bound to a backing plate, and then the backing plate is going to be glued into our journal here, or our journal cover. So what I've been working on is getting the pages together that I want to put in this specific journal. Now, this was my inspiration photo, and I really loved just the darkness of it. I love the sepia. I love the vintage look. I love that he was kind of like, I don't know, like maybe a cowboy, maybe an explorer, maybe a hunter. I can't quite tell, but it looks like he was maybe in the 1800s, somewhere along the lines of that time frame. So I'm kind of working my way towards like the Victorian time frame, and I want to use a lot of these kind of muted colors in this scheme. However, I also want to make this a little bit whimsical. I want to use a lot of forest animals. I want to use some Thanksgiving vibes, since this is like a fall Thanksgiving themed journal. So with that being said, I've done some research, and I think I went over a little bit in one of my previous videos for this. I think it was episode number 1. We went over some of my inspiration pieces, and I've kind of delved into things a little bit deeper from there. So let's kind of show you what I have and kind of where I've started. And then I also want to go over how I got to this point. Okay, so here are my pages. Now, before I even start working on putting pages together, I do a lot of collecting of different things that I like. Now, I have a huge kind of stack of things going on behind the scenes over here, which I'll kind of show you a little bit. I showed you kind of previously before, but I've kind of collected like a huge stack of things. Now I know this right here is totally a bright color, and I wanted to use something like this that I could kind of put a spin on it. Even though this is bright and springy looking, I wanted to make this dark. I wanted to use this kind of as a background, bright and springy, but then darken it up, if you get what I'm saying. Because I loved that pop of kind of fuchsia color, and I think the fuchsias will work really well with our color scheme that we're kind of going on here. We're going on like the burgundies, the mauves, the wine colors. So I wanted to kind of add in a little bright pop here and there, but then darken it up with other features. So I found these at Dollar Tree, so I'm going to be using some of these, and I'll show you more examples. I also did a lot of printing on my computer. I found a lot of different images that I liked. I adjusted them up. I adjusted the lighting. I tweaked them up a little bit. I printed a lot of things on cardstock, and I also printed things on sticker paper or label paper, so that way I can just pull them off and stick them to different backgrounds. So this one right here is like a barn type of background. You can see there's pumpkins, and it's very kind of dark and warm feeling. So that is kind of the look I want to go to. I want to incorporate those bright pops into this dark kind of overall feel. The same with this one. I pulled this out of a Thanksgiving, vintage Thanksgiving book that I had found. Now, this is definitely too bright for this journal, but I liked the color on this woman's shirt here. I thought that would be really cool to incorporate this somehow into kind of a dark background. So my thoughts is I'm going to fussy cut this image, maybe do a little watercolor painting on her to darken her up a little bit, and then put like this image on another background. Also on the back, I loved this this page. This whole book was a really cool book. I found it at the Goodwill bins, and it's just got all kinds of like vintage Thanksgiving stuff in there. But I loved kind of just the muted tones on this one. So I don't know, I might use both pages if I can. But basically what I'm showing you is just different things that I printed up online. Again, here's another photo of this owl on this dark background. Here is a dark background, and you can see just the outline of like an elk with the moon. Here's some more very fall kind of colors going on here, scenes. We've got some little baby deer, fence post, leaves, just very fall looking things. And again, here's more of that color that I'm really going for, those bright kind of mauves and cranberries, and I loved this whole color scheme right here. So these are also going to be kind of background pages to my journal. Here's more right here. And again, I'm adding in pops of kind of that Victorian vintage feel. And these are all images that I found online. Here's another one of the Thanksgiving pages. This is a little too bright. This is another like fall themed page that was in that book, but that's too bright for me. I don't want to use anything like that. I definitely liked this darker kind of look. We can maybe incorporate that. And then I just also have other papers, like I have some vellum here, and I have some lined paper, and I have my wine dyed paper. I have, this is just that nice dark crimson red cardstock. Here's more scrapbooking paper, the 12 by 12 scrapbooking paper, kind of in those pinks and wines and all those colors that I'm kind of incorporating. We can use those. I've got some orange tissue paper. I also have that brick background that came from Dollar Tree. I think this is wallpaper. But yes, I'm going to try to incorporate a lot of these different items into my signature pages. So now that you kind of have an idea of where we're going with this, let's kind of go through how I get to the point of having all that stuff to having this right here. Okay, first of all, I start out with a template, just like this. Now, how I get this template is I took my journal right here and I opened it up, and I wanted to have an overall total width and height of the maximum size page I can fit in this journal. So basically how I came about that is I measured from the side right here of the, I don't want to include the spine of the book. I only want to include the front cover and the back cover. So I measured from the inside of the front cover to the outermost spot over here, and then top and bottom, and then I minused about 1/4 of an inch. So that gave me my size of my paper right here. So this is actually this is just a scrap piece of paper from an 8.5 by 11 it's 8.5 by 11 printer paper or cardstock paper cover. So I just was recycling it. So this was an 8.5 by 11. I folded it in half, and the width ended up being perfect, but I had to trim the top off just a little bit. So I trimmed the top off. So now I have a template for my page size that gives me about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. So this is the maximum size paper, or maximum size page. I shouldn't say paper, because you can use larger papers and fold them and cut them and all that. But this is the maximum size page that I can have in this journal. Okay, so here is my template, and that's how I got to that point. Now, another little thing that I like to do when I'm making a template is I like to mark out my halfway points. So as you can see, I have a little dot here and a little dot here, and all I did was I measured from here to here, divided it by 2, and that gave me my number for my halfway point on my width or my length, however you want it, whichever way you want to hold it. And I did the same for the side. So these are like my little guides that I use when I'm looking to fold things, looking to cut things. So I will use this whenever I'm taking those papers that we showed you and turning those papers into actual pages that are going to go into signatures. Hope that isn't too confusing. I know I did a lot of rambling, but okay. So now that we have my template, what I do from here on out is I organize how I want my pages laid out. So I always start with what I want the cover or the outermost portion of my signature to be. Now, a signature is, for the most part, papers like this. So this is my full size. If I take this template and open it all up, this is where you're gonna start from, basically. So, and then everything is just getting folded in half. So you're basically getting double the amount. If you have 10 pieces of paper, you're folding those in half, you're gonna have 20 pages to your journal, okay? So this is where I am right here. So I started with what I wanted as my cover, and I wanted to have this photo of this kind of Victorian house out in the woods with a babbling brook and the fall colored leaves. I wanted this to be my cover of that specific signature. I love the darkness, but I love the fall look as well. So what I did for this one is I just used a piece of cardstock, just a plain white piece of cardstock. I folded it in half. I trimmed it slightly because it needed to get trimmed to fit into my template size. And then I distressed all the edges. I did a little cut with my little cutter here, like a fancy edge cut all around all 4 edges. I also did the inside. I distressed the whole thing so it looked older. And then I just took that image that I had. This was actually printed on shipping label paper, which was perfect because it's a little bit more muted, which is what I wanted. And then I just stuck that. Actually, I ripped the edges. So I hand ripped all the edges and then distressed the edges. And then I just pulled the sticker off and stuck that to the right hand side of my cardstock. And then I took a little bit of this kind of natural paper, cut off a piece, and then just glued that on. So this is going to be my outer piece to this specific signature. All right, then I laid out the other pages that I wanted to have within this signature. Okay, so the next page I wanted to have was one of my wine dyed doilies, which I'll move this up a little bit so you can see. So again, that was the wine dyed doily right there, and I just cut the top and bottom off so it would fit within our template. And then here is a wine dyed packing paper, and I again used my ruler and ripped all of the edges. Now, as you can see, this is a wide piece of paper. This didn't fit in my dimensions, so all I did was I folded in one side, and this is going to be like a nice little flap, and then I folded it again in the middle, so now we have the right size to fit into our template here. So that is going to be the next page, just like that. All right, then here was another page out of that Thanksgiving book. I loved that barn. Again, more muted colors, a little bit darker tone. And this one didn't fit as well. It was too wide, but I wanted to use the whole page. So I folded one side in and I folded the other side. And we're gonna use this as our center point right here. So we're gonna lay that in. And as you can see, I folded over this edge here because we'll do something with that later. So that's how you can kind of, even if your pages aren't big enough or too short, that's okay. You want these little flaps because you can add on to them later. They can be little tuck spots. They can be, you can add to them. You can, lots of different things, and we'll go over that as we go. Okay, so then next, I wanted to use one of those envelopes. This is one of the wine dyed envelopes, and all I did was, this was how it went originally. The flap went down like this. I just folded it in half backwards. So now the flap is up, and now you have kind of created a pocket here and a pocket here on the back. Okay, so that is gonna go next. Right, and then I have another couple of envelopes. These are two different envelopes that were just card envelopes. And I cut the tops off of, or I cut the sides off of them because this was the original envelope here. So I cut the whole thing to make it fit within our template. Here's our template right here. And then I glued down the flap. So this is the part that you would, lap and enclose up for when you put your card in it. So I glued that down, and then I cut out one of the sides. So now I have a pocket here, and I flipped it, and I have a pocket on the back because I glued two cards together back to back, if you can see that right there. So I made it just the right size. So that will go next. All right, and then this is just a little piece of cardstock. I didn't have a big enough piece for a full page, so I had this. I folded it in half, and this will kind of go in the middle, so this will be a little smaller page. All right, now this one right here was really fun. And remember how I told you I was going to use that pop of fuchsia color? I used one of the wine dyed cardstock pages that I had, the large cardstock pages. I cut that down to size, and then I took one of those big fuchsia flower prints, and it's a big sticker. I just stuck that on here. I distressed all the edges. I distressed all the edges of this paper, so now it's kind of moody and dark looking, but yet you still get that pop of color. So that one is going to go next, and look at the distressing in here. That looks so good. Oh, and I also clipped the edges just like I did on the front page. I did the little fancy edges on this one right here. So that will go next. Now this next one was, let me open it wide open, just a 12 by 12 scrapbooking page. Okay, I showed those to you. What I did for this one was, the first thing I did was I found the center of my my page right here. I found the center, and then I lined up, here's where that template comes in. I lined up my center of my template to the center of my page, and then I knew where I needed to fold on both sides. So I folded like that, okay? So that was the first thing I did. Then I did the same thing with the height. I wanted to make sure the height was the same height. So I made sure the height was the same, and then I folded up like this, okay? So now we have this fun little flap with pockets type thing going on here. Now you can do a couple things. You can either sew in on this edge if you wanted, or you could sew in on this edge. And so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be sewing in on this edge right here. So this will go in, and then I actually did just a little sheet of lined paper. It's a full sheet of lined paper that I folded in half. So let me see if I have another one to show you. So here's my full sheet of lined paper. Okay, I folded it in half like this. Super easy. Folded it in half and then folded it in half again. Just like this, okay? Oh, make sure it's nice and straight. Then what I did, I opened it back up and I glued this perforated side down, okay? So I glued that all down. So now the top on this is all glued down. And then when I folded it in half, it makes two pockets like this. One pocket here, one pocket here, and then there's all kinds of line space for writing as well. So I distressed this with my distress ink, and then I just punched half circles on either side just to make it easier to open up those pockets. And then this is gonna go inside of that little 12 by 12 pocket right there. So that is gonna be the very center of our book, or of our signature, okay? So that is how I got to where I am right now with the signatures. So I'm actually gonna do this 2 more times because I'm gonna make 3 separate signatures, all the same kind of theme, but very similar in layout, okay? But I'm gonna use different, I'll use different photos, different features, stuff like that, but very similar. Same number of papers, probably pretty close to the same layout just to make it easier. All right, so that is what I'm working on next.